Um, that's, Amy, I always forget to start the recording when I do my calls. Um, we are currently in our beta phase of our program. And Craig, I don't know if you want me to take everybody through what the platform does. We did that the other day, but we're currently in our beta phase, anticipating to move to paid pilots in the next quarter. And we are currently engaged with a major new home development community company called Hillwood Communities, based out of Dallas, in which they have evaluated that the core functionality of realty is something that could have significant application to their business model by enabling leads that come through both builders' websites and their website to be qualified, and then those leads can be nurtured by providing a better experience and accelerating the lead to closing cycle, which is really managed by either builder sales teams or independent real estate agents. So that's where we are. We are in discussions with them for them to come in as a strategic investment partner, looking to raise $2 million from them, but we are always open to raising capital. So I'm going to probably reach out to some of you if you have any thoughts and ideas on steering us towards the right people.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, George. Great stuff. For me, next would be Kate.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here today and to get to talk with all of you. So I'm Kate Ritter. I am the founder and CEO of HomeKind. HomeKind is an AI-enhanced 3D technology. It's a powerful sales tool for real estate agents and an integrated advertising platform for home retail brands. Ultimately, we enable anyone to professionally stage a space in minutes instead of days. So think kind of the functionality of AutoCAD with the usability of Canva. And yeah, we're currently offering tech-enabled services, but we'll be launching our product publicly this summer.
Good stuff. Looking forward to your insight for the next hour. Yeah, thanks again for being here. Guillermo.
Awesome. I'm the CEO, co-founder at Iris CX. We're an AI warranty solution for home builders and rental organizations. We help companies solve the kind of the problem and stress around managing your customers after the fact. We take all that data, we push it through to prevent issues from happening. So really managing that service management and quality management piece using voice, visual, and AI is what makes us big, what makes us different.
Huge need for that. Yeah.
Take away the pain.
Yeah, good stuff. Eugene, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Thank you for having me today. My name is Eugene. I'm founder of Chris AI. We create AI employees, replacing, unfortunately, and human agents on some parts of the deal. Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, look, we're going to talk a bit about that. So don't worry too much. There is a need for it, by all means. Melissa, hi.
Hi, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on a panel with all these brilliant minds, especially in the prop tech space. I am CEO and founder of Formus, a B2B SaaS startup dedicated to solving barriers in the home renovation market. So we are using AI to empower design build professionals to manage client expectations onboarding, or manage client onboarding, and as well as their project expectations. So understanding the industry gaps, we have developed an advanced AI engine with a curated design build knowledge base to gather the relevant homeowner data, homeowner information and project data at the very beginning stages of the renovation process. This tool is called Sadie. It's Spatial Artificial Design Intelligence Engine. Sadie will onboard homeowners at the renovation planning stage, documenting their profiles, all the project scope, and the AI engine will then guide the homeowners' engagement, enhance continued involvement throughout the renovation cycle. So we are currently in development. We are planning, our goal is to launch Sadie version 1 in a few weeks, and we will be we have a large list of home design professionals that are interested in trying Sadie out in their process, and so we are gonna we're offering this to anyone in this industry who's wanting to try it out and give us feedback, so that we can then build on development from there.
Great stuff. Thanks again for being here.
Mhm.
This is quite an impressive gamut of the real estate transaction as a whole and ways to automate it and flatten it altogether. And I do not take lightly the opportunity to be amongst all these innovators, people like yourselves who are all like in one place. And I love these chances. It's almost like we can just kind of have this ongoing whiteboard of ideas and cool comments about what's happening in the industry. And I want to start us off with some current news. A couple days ago, Costar announced they are going to be acquiring Matterport. Now, this is of real interest to me, and I don't think enough in the industry are chatting about it. And I want to generate some discussion. When I started in real estate, it was in commercial, and I was in marketing for CBRE. They're a big company. And I remember physically walking around the Costar guy. That's just kind of what I remember calling him, showing him the space, showing the commercial building we were in. And that's how they started recording space, was just walking around, jotting it down, and they were going to record it that way. Well, exceptionally difficult because commercial space can always change. A landlord's going to do anything the tenant wants in terms of fit up, knocking down walls, moving, just altering space all around, right? But why I think this is so important is because you have a company whose CEO has made it very clear that they want to win the portal wars. They want to win the eyes of the consumer in terms of home search. They're in the midst of a $1 billion ad campaign, and they just acquired the industry standard in 3D tours. Now, I think that mainly 3D tours have always been kind of just a nice to have, right? But I think that's because there hasn't been a consumer-facing force to really push that into the mainstream. Let's just compare it to 10 years ago when like Amazon said, we're going to do overnight delivery. It was always just something really cool and we had to pay extra for until there was a brand, till there was a company that could really make it work. And that's what I think may happen here with this Matterport deal, is that if homes.com really wants to push this, pretty soon they're in front of a lot of consumers. There's going to be a lot of people in mid-tier markets who think they need a 3D tour. And there we go. And then the byproducts of that are going to be tons of data can be collected. Tons of time can be reduced in showing buyers around the market. Anyway, we have a lot of smart people on this panel, and I want to get people's kind of thoughts on this, whatever it might be. Am I wrong? Maybe. I don't know. Tell me if I am. I'm open to that too. So yeah, whoever wants to jump in, let's talk about it.
I would love to jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is you're spot on. Like I have been researching this industry for the last 2 years to really gain insight why this industry, which depends on the needs of homeowners, does not serve them effectively. And we started out with this collaborative space where homeowners, all the renovation specialists can collaborate in one 3D interactive environment, get information in real time. We've created several proof of concepts that we've tested over the last couple of years in front of hundreds of homeowners and trade professionals. The homeowners would see it and say, oh, this is amazing. I need this. And the trade professionals are saying, oh, yeah, see, this is the future, but it's a nice to have, not a need to have. Well, with being a B2B SaaS startup and with the kind of business model we have, we need the trade professional saying we have to have this for it to be of value to the homeowners. And so what I realized is that there's a lot of really great technology out there like Matterport that are serving the trade professionals really, that are great for them to do their part of the job. It's for efficiency, but the homeowners don't have the transparency in that process to be able to utilize it to make their decisions. And so that's why Formuses exists, is to create a homeowner-centric platform that pulls the existing technology into one space that makes it more accessible to the homeowners, but also it's kind of an easy transition for the trade professionals to plug into their process.
Yeah, nice, good thoughts. Guillermo, you wanted to jump in?
I think it's, yeah, if you look at the transaction, what makes it special for, I mean, at least 3 of us on the call here, is that it's the acknowledgement that visual data is really it's the standard for real estate, right? I mean, you take a look at all the different systems that are out there that are all, it's basically all one-dimensional data, right? Like even like, it's not really practical. Like, does anybody really know how big 2,000 square feet is or 20,000 square feet? Like, we don't really know.
Right.
It's just like whatever, right? And so the one dimensionality of the data that exists in like 99% of apartments.com, homes.com, et cetera, is really hard to actually move a buyer through the journey. And so, you know, my take on the deal is that Matterport's a 3-dimensional, you know, visualization tool that lacked the distribution channels that Costar has. So now you've got Costar saying, you know what, this is how this is how humans make decisions about their living space. Like, my cave is better than your cave or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And this way they've said, okay, humans make decisions about their space. Humans are more comfortable buying this way. Our one-dimensional data doesn't really work like it used to. We're seeing a lot of the industry, the leaders choose to pay extra for this. So now we have the distribution channel. Let's bring that in with the convention of 3-dimensionality, and let's solve the customers that we've got. And so your example in Amazon is really, really valid, because the distribution channel didn't exist before. Like, the infrastructure for the warehouses and the overnight delivery and the Amazon planes and aircrafts, that didn't exist. And so they couldn't do the overnight delivery or twice-day delivery that you get now, because the infrastructure didn't exist, or it was owned by UPS or FedEx. So now they've taken, you know, the vertically integrated that example that you used with respect to the demand of the customer and the innovation of the product in Amazon's, you know, the everything store and the distribution channel. So this is a really good verticalization of the data and the distribution channel. And for those of us in the call, we're still trying to establish virtual distribution channels. We're doing sales direct, right?
Yeah.
Or we're in beta, or we're coming to market. And so you take a look at this, it's like, it's this acknowledgement that, you know, what I love about it is that pretty soon visual is going to be the standard in real estate. Like, if I'm Costar, you're going to offer Matterport for free, right? And that's going to be part of the Costar brand. And so if you're trying to buy on MLS and not through Costar, I mean, MLS is a separate conversation right now, but it's going to be a totally different experience. And now MLS is looking in over their shoulder for a couple of reasons, because they've got arrows coming at them in the back, and they're going to have to deal with that. And so, like, it's this disaggregation of information, asymmetry that was once held by a small group of agents. It's now going to be, you know, now it's open. So that's the part that I see is really interesting. Is for like Missy, Kate, myself, George a little bit, you know, that disaggregation of data, the acknowledgement that visual data is how we consume complex environments versus the one-dimensional data, and that's subject to human interpretation. That's what's gonna be so special.
Yep. Kate, I gotta come to you on this. I mean, there's a lot of overlap here.
There's a lot of overlap, absolutely. The part that I enjoy the most about this is that it ultimately is empowering buyers. And that right now seems to be the theme through and through. You know, buyers want more transparency to understand what they're working with, who they're working with, what's the connection here. So definitely it opens a lot of doors in the virtual staging space for this as well. What we know is that homes sit empty, and this in particular is really going to help, I think, in that as well. When we're looking at images, obviously for us, virtual staging, primarily our focus at this particular time is the 2D to 3D environment, because that is what is required for so many of the photos going in those listing pages. But at the same time, that 3D environment is incredibly valuable so that they can actually visualize the space that they want to be in. And I see all the time, if there is a 3D tour offering available and the photos that we're looking at for our virtual staging, when we are providing those services, there can be a very large disconnect between the photos and then the 3D tour, where you're going, man, in this photo, this room looks massive. And then you look at the 3D tour and you're going, that wall is like a 4-foot wall, but it looks 16 feet in that photo. And so for us, especially because we're connecting the dots to real furniture, we have to keep that in mind. We really have to be paying attention to, you know, putting the right kind of pieces in place instead of having something that, sure, this works for a 16-foot wall, but not at all for a 4-foot wall. So I think it's going to provide a lot of transparency. And I can even see a lot of areas where this may translate out and in the design world and the furniture. I mean, to have that kind of data available, and because I think right now the percentage of Matterport, it's very, very low for the industry as a standard. So opening that up is going to be really incredible. And I'm excited. I mean, I really am quite excited. It's very validating.
Eugene, I have a scenario for you related to this. Do you envision a time where Chris could read a tour and describe it back to an aspiring buyer, someone Chris is chatting with? They have a question about a listing. It can use the data from a tour. What do you think?
Absolutely. And the thing is, it's not the future, it's doable right now.
Yeah.
These days.
Yeah.
So, and actually, as we sell Chris to like companies outside of the US, so we have customers from the UK, from Dubai, from Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore. I've seen some companies going so like very, very in a hybrid model where they don't really have agents. They have sales managers on salary. They have Chris doing all the communication, and they have remote managers, and they have these like Matterport of these world visualizations, and they can just sell through Zoom calls, and their commission is so low. Yeah, and I when I saw these models, I was like, wow, because it's so profitable. Like it's a whole new level. But I haven't seen many of those, but I've seen some, and I'm so impressed. And when they see Chris, they're like, wow, perfect. It aligns with our vision so much. So yeah, definitely. I think it will be challenging at some point later.
Yeah.
We've got Eugene to follow that data. We have one of our solutions is a virtual sales solution, and our customers close 4x faster. Like that's crazy, right? And a 30% conversion rate. So 4x. So basically in one quarter, your whole year in terms of sales, right? And because their cost of sales is so much lower, they're actually spiffing these sales folks higher because they're selling more faster at the same fixed cost.
Impressive.
And that's people. That's not the automated. That's not Chris the bot. That's people doing it.
It connects though, because I think there are studies that show 80% of people really struggle to visualize, whether that's color tones or spatial layout or whatever. So then if you can connect those dots, I mean, then at that point, it becomes a no-brainer. It's just a decision versus asking. I think there's been so much pressure on sort of asking the users to imagine such a large, especially in homes where all the flooring's the same, all the wall colors the same. They don't know if they're looking at 4 different rooms or 4 angles of the same room. And so then they're just swiping, moving on to the next. So it makes sense to me that the visual piece of this is, I mean, obviously that's so much of what we're into, but of course that, people have a hard time visualizing. So where we can connect those dots, it makes all the sense in the world.
Damn it, Kate! You just changed
I'd
my
like to
mind
add
on something.
if I can add one piece to that. I think Matterport is a great product, and I think there's no question that with this recent acquisition, they're going to expand the access that people are going to have to it and their capabilities. The one thing that we look at very carefully is the importance of the personalized interaction between buyers and agents. And when we look at Matterport, while they do offer that sort of virtual tour, that interaction piece as part of it, when we built Realty, our primary focus was make sure that it was consumer facing. It had to be something that the consumer would find very easy and would want to use, not as a nice to have, but this is a better way for us to look at properties. But we also wanted to make sure that we were building something that was not challenging from a technology standpoint. And one of the things that we see with Matterport is that it does require those 3D cameras, the separate software and hardware. It's technologically challenging for a lot of agents. We talk to agents who say, yeah, we'll use it for a $2, $3, $4 million property. It's worth the time and the investment. It's because it's a big price tag that we're selling. What we don't see is that it's being adopted and used for homes that sell for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 or even lower. And our focus with Realty is to disrupt or to democratize this whole virtual tour experience by enabling any media, whether it's still images that we stitch together as slideshows, or whether it's videos, property reels that have been created by professionals with drone footage or by independent agents, and to make that immediately convert to that personal interaction between agent and buyer, or between listing agent and buying agent. What we see happening is that it's addressing the trend, the rapidly growing trend of more and more buyers, especially millennials and Gen Z, who are buying homes sight unseen, never being physically in the house to actually make the purchase, and making the decision to purchase online. So the focus and the advantage that it provides for both agent and for buyer is, how do I improve that experience to be able to actually see the home, never have to go into it, get all of my questions answered by a person, and be able to close the sale faster. So for the buyer, avoiding the competitive bidding situation that happens in certain markets, and for the agents to close the deal much, much faster, because they can provide that personal interaction without having to drive from home to home to home and having to coordinate all the different schedules between seller, agent, buyer, listing agent.
Yeah. A couple more points on this. Kate, what I was going to say is, for the longest time, I've had a very unpopular opinion about physical staging, like actual, like moving furniture in and out, repainting. And I kind of gave the industry a lot of grief about it, because I said, well, if the wall's purple and they have bad taste in furniture, sell around it. You just have to be better at sales. Like, just talk them through it.
Sure.
And a lot of that came from my experience in sales. I sold investment property. So I was selling a revenue stream, right? So it didn't matter if the carpet was crap or what have you. But your point about people having a hard time visualizing stuff, that just like was a kick to the shin, because you're exactly right.
Ask.
It is. And I never really put the two together, but now I get it. Like, yeah, it's pretty critical to be able to have something just look not plain, but at least attractive enough to a large amount of people so it can get through the sales cycle.
Absolutely. I think definitely the asking someone to just ignore a purple wall, and I've seen a lot of purple walls. It's actually quite shocking how many purple walls
I'm sure
out there. But to ask them to just ignore it, it's quite a big ask. And for them, ultimately, we know real estate is a highly emotional process.
Great segue.
And so connecting those dots there to, can you imagine hosting holiday dinner around this table in this living room? Can you picture bringing baby home to this, take your pick, backyard barbecues, whatever, connecting that emotional spot is really key to them buying the property and thinking whether or not it's worth it to spend money on a renovation, much less if they can even think to see it. I mean, it really is a very large ask. So having these visual tools like what Missy's doing, like what everyone on the call is kind of working, and then also the Matterport piece. I mean, these are all very key to better understanding the users instead of having these big, just ignore the smell.
Yep.
That's the purple wall. Those are really big things.
Yeah. All the fresh chocolate chip cookies in the world aren't going to help in some houses.
It's true.
I want to kind of get us on to our next point. I spend a lot of time at ski resorts, and if you do as well, you know that sometimes you can get into some pretty in-depth conversations on the chairlifts. The other day, I was chatting with a guy who he rents in San Diego, owns something in Reno, and owns something somewhere else in California. I forgot, but we got talking about the experience of buying. And he just went right into it. He said, I don't know if I want to buy in San Diego because I don't want to go through the process again. He says, it's a nightmare. He says, it should be this great, happy experience. He said, but it isn't, right? It's really challenging and difficult.
Mhm.
And while AI is not going to eliminate all agents, I do believe that any practitioners who don't want to acknowledge its benefits might very well get knocked over as a result. There are uses for it, as Eugene can attest, and I kind of want to get your direct insight, Eugene, on like what are you like? Are you hearing blowback from agents? Or I also want to know, are consumers primed for this? Are consumers totally okay with talking to an automated system, talking to AI in this process? Have they been driven? Has the broken transaction process driven consumers to being more open to just having a bot take care of the early stuff?
The thing is, it's a great question, and the thing is, we operate in those countries where you don't have to notify customers that you're talking to AI, and our customers were leveraging this. So from customer perspective, it looks like you're talking to a human because Chris has a first name and surname and generated avatar. And actually, when we got the first tests running, I was just shocked because out of 300 customers, only one realized that it was AI.
Oof.
And the only reason was because answers were just too good to be true. He was like, after the whole conversation, he was like, "Be honest, are you a bot?"
I've asked that.
Incredible.
And the answer I remember one time we were testing Chris and we asked like, "What's the weather today?" And he's like, "I'm not a weather bot, but can help with real estate matters though." Laughing so hard. Yeah, so customers, I think my honest opinion on this is, from customer perspective, I was buying real estate myself, right? And if somebody, let's say Chris, answers my questions in 10 seconds and answers is super accurate, like with all the right data, I don't really care. And the last point here is, when I was checking some of the conversations, I felt like Chris had better empathy, which was also shocking to me because we had a customer and we have a customer in Singapore. And they were doing lead generation around Southeast Asia. And one customer from Malaysia was messaging with Chris and he was like, "Guys, I don't have money to buy real estate in Singapore." And when I was reading Chris' answers, I was like, oh my God, because Chris told him, "Bro, it's totally fine. We all started somewhere. It's not a problem. I'll message you 1 year down the road. You'll get it."
So
Yeah.
Who's
Gene,
gonna?
can I ask you a question? Are you finding that there's a generational, there's two parts of it. There's a generational acceptance to using AI and interacting with bots, one. And secondly, does it matter where in the cycle of buying the home or buying the property that it's become more meaningful? Because the reason why I ask is because what we see, the data that we look at, is that the personal interaction piece, especially as you get towards the end closing, is escalates. It becomes increasingly more important. In the early stages, I don't necessarily need to talk to a human being. So that are you seeing whether it's generational and where in the cycle?
Yeah, as for the cycle, totally agree with you. Totally. It's more about those stages that are more transactional, where you're just looking for the right data, you're just searching, like on these stages, definitely. And also on later stages where you start like this back and forth process of like, do you have something else? What can you offer? And you go back to Chris. And actually, it's a use case that our agents discovered, not us. They're like, oh, actually, I'm using Chris later down the road. When customer asks something, I just copy their question, paste it into Chris. Chris generates a response in like 10 seconds. I just copy it and send to the customer later. I was like, wow, because we didn't even think about it.
So are you
Yeah,
saying
so-
it's actually it's used more as it gets closer to the closing stage?
It's used more on the first stage, on the first
Okay.
stages, on like upper funnel, but agents start using Chris later, and they just copy. They're pretending that the answer they're providing is their answer, but in reality, it's Chris' answer. You're just using. So on the first steps, I'd say Chris is more like independent AI agent, and later he becomes more of a copilot thing.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Yep.
Guillermo, you want to jump in?
I think it's interesting what you describe, how you described that San Diego experience, and then what Eugene was talking about, Chris, because like it's important for us to, at some point in time, the buyer's journey became the supplier's journey, right? And the supplier's journey became the mode of operation versus what the buyer is trying to achieve. And so you think about what you're doing at the different stages of the buyer's journey, like a real buyer's journey, and then and what you're trying to solve for. And why did the agent or a broker exist at the very, very beginning? Why did the first broker exist? It's because the buyer didn't have information and the broker did, and the buyer needed to trust something to do something they don't do very often, and the broker did, right? And so if we can mitigate those needs within the buyer's journey, all, starting at the most, I'll say the least risky parts of the funnel, then to what Eugene's doing, you can solve the problems that the buyer is trying to solve for with respect to that stage of the journey. And, the people, I'll say the audience that's out there that's trying to prevent AI from doing things that it can at scale, potentially could have a conflict of interest, right? And that conflict of interest is what's raising a lot of and the conflict of interest could be, I've got a mortgage payment, I've got a car payment, I've got family to feed, et cetera, right? And so that conflict of interest mitigates the trust de-risk that the buyer's trying to achieve. And so I agree that people should get paid fairly for the work that they do when that value is ascribed to the value that's delivered. And now in a world where you can go and Google a stock price to go buy something or a plane ticket, it's only under certain circumstances when the risk exceeds your ability to solve it with a commodity solution that you will go and talk to a human. And so that floor of what the commodity response looked like is going up and up and up and up every single day. And Eugene's moving the bar for organizations that are for in jurisdictions that legislatively are enabling this kind of conversation. And so like the freedom, the ability for information to move like without any viscosity, is really helping these innovations to take off.
Mhm.
And it's just this, it's these legacy, I'll say institutions that exist because they've got a conflict. There's a nested conflict of interest in there.
Yeah.
And so it's the cannibalization of your own interest that helps move innovation forward. Which is why you look at the people on the table, around the table here, a lot of us from different industries
Mhm.
that are bringing innovation to construction, real estate, builders, et cetera.
It's
Because it's obvious in other places.
a lot of the industry thinks it's in a relationship business. You hear it all the time. It isn't. I don't think it is. I think it's in an experience business. Right? And there's a difference. Provide them a great experience, and you may not need to keep in touch with them for another 5-6 years. Because if you did a great job that first time, they don't need an email to remember that. They don't need a drip campaign. They just need to remember how well it went with you, as opposed to the first time they bought it, it was a nightmare. Missy, I want to ask about your experience, well, your insight on improving the transaction experience, where you guys fit into that, what your take is on that.
For real estate, for buying homes.
Yeah.
So, the power of Sadie in that is that we are able to train her to, ask those relevant questions that real estate agents ask going into the process to pull those questions out of the homeowners, but be able to really dig deeper into their expectations, their goals for this house that they're buying, and making sure that they're well equipped with the information they need to make better decisions in choosing their homes. And so we're hyper focused on renovations right now and being able to use that data to help them make better decisions in renovating, but the same thing can be applied for buying homes as well. We have several real estate agents who have asked us about having a platform like this to onboard homeowners and help, as we're gathering that data, educate them on, what they should expect, in buying this house based on their lifestyle, their desires, their goals. And so for Sadie, she's able to, she's been able to do that initial vetting of a homeowner and preparing before, so that when they engage with the real estate agent, they're better educated and better suited to move forward with buying the house, and the homeowner is not, or the real estate agent does not have days and weeks trying to help them understand and navigate those expectations more realistically.
Yeah, my question was a little clumsy. What I meant to plug in was the idea that the renovation, the living, the occupancy is part of the overall experience. Right? And renovations, man, it's not fun. But it's part of the homeowner cycle. And people go into looking at homes, and look, the industry they're hand in hand with contractors. Every agent has a list of contractors they can recommend. They will come into a house and say, the kitchen just needs to be rehabbed, and it's kind of said like that, although that's likely a 6-figure, 6-month full body root canal. It's awful. And but yeah, and I think obviously there's a lot of technological evolution being pushed into that part as well, right?
Yes, so it's the same concept of the same thing of like preparing and educating that homeowner as they're, looking at this house and they know that they're going to renovate this kitchen. Questions like, does this fit within the overall budget that you have for buying a house? Does it, are you planning on living in this space and help while renovating? And I just heard yesterday, I was at a conference yesterday, and I heard this term a GC uses called remodeling fatigue, where that's one of his biggest barriers with homeowners are homeowners who decide they want to live in the space while renovating, and the problems that come with that. And so Stady is able to educate them up from, give them that data, that information up. Here's what you're risking. Here's where you could, potentially be saving or spending more money, not on top of the personal pains and this strain that it puts on the family in that process. And so that's the goal of Stady, is to help them think through things that they wouldn't know to think of or would think of before making their decisions.
I wonder, I mean, I'm willing to admit, I've already admitted I was wrong once on this call today. It's going to be a record. This might be the second time in an hour. Maybe that's why my experience was so awful, because I was living in the house when we went through these renovations, and it was pretty tedious. And a good buddy of mine has a big camper, and they just went and worked remotely for 4 months while their kitchen was being done. And while it took a lot longer than he thought, it wasn't nearly his talking about it didn't quite elicit the same amount of let's just say frustration that my experience did. So yeah, I mean, I guess you don't need me to justify your product there, Missy, but man, that does sound like a terrific use of it. I wish I had thought more about moving out for a bit. Yeah, it doesn't sound fun. I want to get still cranking along about. We've been talking a lot of big picture things here. What are some of the kind of more smaller, granular, day-to-day items that we're seeing AI move quickly into for the space? Anyone want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I can start. What we've seen so far, all like first steps of the deal is just so easy to automate, like qualifying leads, tour scheduling, I'd say consultations. Yeah, actually consultations as well, because Chris has a knowledge base of an agency, so we know like a lot of, so Chris' version of this specific agency, I mean brokerage, knows a lot of things. So it's just, yeah, it just fits so good and it's so easy. Yeah, something what I discovered in the last few months is.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about, the visualization piece of it and the need for that in this industry for homeowners. And so when I did the interviews a couple of years ago, I would go into these conversations. They had no idea what I was doing. And my question would be, this is for, I interviewed homeowners, but also interviewed, GCs, interior designers, anybody, any trade professional in the space. And I would ask, what are your top 3 barriers working with homeowners, or for the homeowners working with the trade professionals? And then I, analyzed all that feedback afterwards. And the top 2 was for homeowner, being able to visualize what they're designing and understanding the process. And so the top for the trade professional was helping homeowners visualize what they're designing and understanding the process. And so, where I really see a huge value in using AI in transforming this industry is that education piece of using that, if this collecting that data, organizing that data, and using it to educate homeowners at the very early stages, so that they're going into this process with more knowledge and feel more confident, and therefore making more informed and better decisions about the process. And they feel they're also feeling empowered when talking to the different trade professionals in a way that they now know, they understand. And so that's where, because 9 out of 10 renovation projects do experience cost overrun. 70% of that overrun is due to redesign because of miscommunication and poor project data.
Or people
so
like me, like staying in the house and getting in the way of everybody.
That too.
But I would think that AI would really also help in narrowing the selection process of what homes a consumer, a buyer is interested in, because the conversion rate for realtors is less than 10% on average. From the amount of homes that they have to present and show, especially physically, to the homes that they actually sell. And for buyers, on average, they look at 10 homes before they make a decision that one of them is right. So if AI can say, we can narrow the selection process for the agent, what I can offer, and we can narrow the choice for the buyer, I think it just turns the whole thing upside down. I think it just shortens, compresses the cycle, and increases the experience, and makes it better, faster, and all those things. That's where I think AI can have a huge impact.
So, do we think, from the perspective of the agent and the broker, is AI adding value or taking it away?
Adding. It should. I mean,
yeah.
Again, the data that we look at is that the average real estate agent shows 25 homes in a 52-hour week each week, and only sells on average. Again, this is an average. There's some exceptions, of course. Sells on average about 10 homes a year. That's the average realtor. So and part of that is due to the amount of physical time and coordinating of schedules, driving around neighborhoods, getting behind schedule, all those things. If I can narrow the focus down to, these are the 3 homes that fit all of your criteria, and AI can do that. And for the buyer, saying, only show me homes that I really am interested in, because I don't need to look at homes that I can literally walk in and within 30 seconds say, this is not for us, we're out of here. The amount of time that's wasted for both parties is a huge time suck.
Yes.
And a cost factor for the agent as well.
I totally agree with George. And actually, this is something that I think, the most confused about when I started my career in real estate. I was a chief marketing officer in a real estate agency. And I was so confused that, hey, you have a huge property database, you have customers' intent, you can just do like a proper property matching. Like, why don't you do that? Why do you just rely on agent being like motivated enough to go through all of that? And when I started my own next year, it was 2017. It was actually the first thing we developed. We created like a Tinder-like app for choosing a home for our customers. So they can, our bots using ML, it was before Gen AI boom. We were using ML, sourcing the best properties in the market for our customers. And so they were receiving like a short link. They can open it like wherever they want, email, iMessage, text. They just open this link and they have like this selection of best listings. And they can like on Tinder, dislike, book tour online. And it increased capacity of our agents, back to George's point, right? Capacity of our agents significantly. And they were so happy, they were obsessed with this tool because it saved so much time. So yeah, I definitely can relate.
Kate, some thoughts?
Yes, actually, I'm probably going to be a bit of an outlier here, but I will say it's particular to virtual staging. So for one thing, these are all really great scenarios where the homes are selling, but they're, I'm trying to find, so NAR had a study a couple of years ago, so this is during the big boom, that stated that empty homes sit for 80 days. When there's nothing in them. So these homes are still an emotional connection to someone, a financial problem for someone. These homes still have to move. And last year there was 9% of properties that were vacant. So to me, in my particular space, that means that these homes are a very hard problem to visualize. Usually that's connection or it's a pricing issue, but more times, more often it ends up being they cannot figure out where their TV and their sofa are going to go and where they're going to spend the bulk of their time, right? So from an AI standpoint, I think it's kind of important to differentiate between automation and artificial intelligence. Certainly automation can be very helpful to help us be more efficient. So for us, we used machine learning to automate the process of that 2D to 3D environment. That has usually been a sometimes multi-day process, and we've been able to take it down to a minute or less. So obviously that automation has been extremely efficient. However, AI is a creative component, and at this particular stage in development, it still needs some harnessing. Because current AI wrappers are definitely taking massive creative liberties and structurally changing the room. Of course, that photo looks better. It has a 10-foot vaulted ceiling. Well, we all know that that doesn't actually exist, and that's Missy, hundreds of thousands of dollars and changes to the property. So that's costing agents time and fees, right? Because at that point, if they're listing on MLS, it's no longer MLS compliant. It's kind of false advertising. So it's unnecessarily complicating the process. I think it's going to end up being, at least in this particular space, sort of a combination of automating certain processes as well as using AI to enhance and highlight the human intelligence and preferences and guiding them to a more empowered decision. So I kind of fall a little bit in this land of like, yes, automation is incredible and AI can be extremely helpful, but there's still these like, you know, that's 9% of homes listed last year that are considered vacant. That's like 16 million properties sitting. And that's a big kind of PowerPoint. Those are emotional heartache for people, you know? So I do think that, you know, that's where I probably am a little bit of an outlier in this moment.
That's good. Oh, great take. Guillermo, want to jump in?
Yeah, just, I'm in line with you, Katie, and Kate, in that, like, I think that we look at it for Iris, at least, we use AI to drive automation, right? Because the human issue is, and the, you know, like, again, service management or quality management, the people to get there is part of the problem. And so we capture data in a way that's raw, and then we use AI to enhance it so that it can be automated. And that sequence of events takes time to action from 72 hours to like 5 or 6 minutes. And so again, like in terms of compressing the cycles to solve a problem, when you go from 72 hours to 8 minutes, you're kind of like on the curve to infinity in terms of what you can do. And so it's really that. And then what we found, again, I think this, you know, it's really great to kind of share here, is that it's the need for human interpretation of a complex environment and putting that into a work order that's one-dimensional, that creates all this extra, you know, work. And so, you know, the question about what should AI automate or what should AI do comes down to kind of like, what are the problems that it really should solve? I mean, we've got at least 3 on us in the call here about that, solving the buyer confidence problem, you know, and we solve the labor problem. And so it's like, it's those things that are priorities for builders and in real estate. And so if we can get, you know, if we can prioritize what AI should do versus not what it could do, then we'll get buyers along the way, because then we're matching up the pain and the decision maker into a single seat that wants to do something about it. And so I think it's cool to kind of hear from everybody's perspective, because from our own solutions, we're solving it different ways, and ultimately to realize a better benefit for the consumer or for the seller. And so it's I think what's really, again, what I said earlier, is that it's very interesting to hear these different approaches to solving these problems, because the industry itself isn't coming up with them.
Yeah, George?
Yeah, I just actually, Kate, I don't think you're that much of an outlier as you said you are, because I think when I listen, what I find interesting, what everybody's talking about, is whether it's how we use AI and data. It all comes down to, it seems to me, it all comes down to how do we deliver the best experience for both parties, or if there's multiple parties involved. And I think that, for me, always remains the driving factor on the decisions that we make in what our next stages are, what are we developing, how do we look to the future, is how do we improve the experience for all parties involved in the process, which, as we've said, it's emotional, it's a big purchase, can be frustrating, all those things that are, it's like, if we can always keep that focus on delivering a better experience, I think we solved the big problem. We've addressed the big issue.
Just a couple minutes left, team. This is This has been fantastic. A lot of great takes. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I want to give each of you a chance to just kind of have any parting thoughts and let the audience know where and how people can get a hold of you. George, you want to start?
Well, that was sort of my closing thoughts.
Okay, good one.
Yeah, I definitely will be reaching out to some of you to think about and talk about maybe possible collaborations and things like that. So as long as everybody's email is available, I think, Amy, that we can just get it through the latest invite that you sent out, correct?
Yeah, but I think he wants you to give it out because we're recording it and we have all these people on the call.
Okay, so it's george@realty.com, and it's RWL -T.com.
There you go.
Good
Awesome.
stuff. Thanks. Eugene?
Yeah, actually one of the thoughts that I wanted to mention is that it's not only my perception, you know, of like how it's gonna look like the future. It's actually about numbers, because on average, Chris is doubling the performance of agents, for sure, like statistically proven in London, Dubai, Singapore, Bangkok. Like it's already proven, like doubling the performance. So yeah. I just wanted to mention this number because it's something that 1 year ago I wouldn't believe that.
Yeah. Well, how do people learn? How do people learn?
Sorry to interrupt, but Gene, you mentioned those. Is there a reason why those markets seem to be more receptive or more responsive? Is it because that's where you're focusing more of your activity and you're finding less of it happening in North America and in the United States?
Yeah, actually, it's true, because in those markets, it's just simpler. It's much easier to enter, because one of the reasons, communication channels, right? Like Dubai, Singapore, London, everybody just uses WhatsApp. So you just have to support one channel. If it's the US market, iMessage, text, Facebook Messenger, calls, and I'm like, I mean, I wanted to start in North America actually,
For the worst.
but we end up going like
and
in other
agents in the
countries.
States are stubborn and set in their ways and resistant to change. Amazing and all those. Okay, I get it.
Katie, how can people get a hold of you?
You can find us at homekind.com. And I will leave this little tidbit. Our first nationwide client that we were working with last year, they needed to move properties really quickly. And they had 60 properties that had been sitting. Nothing was happening with them. We did virtual staging on all of them. They all moved in 90 days. So we know that we're absolutely hitting a pain point there. So if you have a property that's sitting, definitely come our way. And obviously if you're going live, and then our product for the public to be able to imagine yourself in any home, that will be live this summer.
Awesome. Thanks. Missy?
You're on mute, girlfriend.
Sorry. You can, my website is formus.tech.com, FORMUSTECH, or you can reach me at mwood@formustech.com. And if there's, like I said, if there's any renovation specialist out there that's interested in test driving Sadie and providing feedback, I'd love to hear from you. When we talk about the sales funnel and how AI can help get clients quicker to the sales funnel, we tested this out with a homeowner recently where we collected all that. Sadie collected all that data, brought that to the architect to design, do some drawings of the new kitchen renovation this homeowner wanted. And within a week of getting that data, talking to the homeowner one time to just introduce herself and to confirm a few things, she was able to create 5 plans that for the homeowner, and they were so blown away by how well this architect knew them and got them and created this space that was perfect for them. And they made a decision on that call. They're in construction now and they haven't made a single change, which is kind of unheard of in this industry. Yes. And so that just shows you the value of, this architect said, she's an award-winning architect in LA. She works on major celebrity homes. She said, this has never happened. I've never had a process of working with a homeowner go so fast from the beginning to me being able to go do what I love, the creative part. And that's where I believe that is the power of AI. If AI can help be part of a process to be cleaner and more organized, then humans can work on the other parts of decisions like creativity. So.
Missy, nice. Are the retailers like Home Depot and Lowe's not potential clients for you?
Yes, it is. So our goal is to build up an e-commerce piece of what we're building, but that's a long-term plan. Okay. Is to have an e-commerce.
Yeah, I would think it's a natural fit.
Yeah, so we have to get people using it for it to be a value to those trade professionals. So we have several. We have a lot of trade partnerships that we're using now to in the visualization part of what we're doing. So we're already building those relationships, but the e-commerce piece of it won't be till like a later version.
Great. Thanks so much, Missy. And Guillermo.
Mm-hmm. All right, great. Thanks. Best place to find us or me. I mean, LinkedIn is a great shot. Either find us at IrisCX, our LinkedIn page, or find me directly, Guillermo Salazar, or find us on our website, iriscx.com. Who we're looking for, folks that are out there that are suffering through, trying to staff their teams, trying to solve their customers' problems. Typically, we like to start if you get 100 units under management or under warranty. It's a great place for us to kind of come in and have a conversation. We've been around since 2020. We've got lots of reference cases, lots of customers that are all shapes and sizes that have basically, saved a ton of money. Kind of reference customers, 300 units, they saved $1.5 million in the first year. Their CSAT went up to 9.2 out of from like a 70 level, 75 level.
I want to know what that acronym means.
Customer satisfaction scores.
Thank
Their
you.
customer satisfaction went up. Their net promoter scores went up. So happier customers, less costs. Do things faster. If you're interested in that, let me know. Love to chat with you. If you think I'm crazy, let me know. Love to chat with you. All those things.
Happier customers, less cost, man. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's
not complicated.
This was a fantastic hour. Thank you, everybody, for all of your insight and takes. I love it. It's getting me fired up. I got new ideas to write about. I'm gonna step away. It's gonna go on over to Amy for session number 2. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. It's been so awesome. And here's John. Woo woo.
Thanks, Craig.
Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, John, you first get to introduce yourself and then talk about that little cool screen. Not little, it's big. The big cool screen behind you and all the cool things you're doing. So I will let you start. So go ahead.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, I was just going to say that was a fantastic panel. It's great to see the prop tech industry alive and kicking, because I know it's been a pretty tough couple of years in terms of capital and funding and so forth. That's fantastic to see. So my name is John Rogers. I'm in the fortunate position. I run all of research and development for CoreLogic. And if you're not too sure who CoreLogic is, we're a data analytics and software company. So we support about 1.5 million property professionals across the industry in real estate, mortgage, insurance, and government. And the room I'm in right now, to your question, Amy, is our research and development facility down in Dallas. And it's just a great way, and it was mentioned on the panel before, it's just a great way to visualize and explore, identify new solutions. So it's if you've seen the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, it's probably dating me a wee bit, but it's kind of like that experience, and just the ability to look at every house in the United States in great detail and how it can service, whether it's a real estate agent, an underwriting and mortgage space, all the way through to a restoration contractor. So We supported about the restoration of about 2 million homes last year due to major weather events, unfortunately. So, but managed to get the homeowner back in as fast as possible.
That is so awesome. So, for those of people on the call, not the panel here, but there's people on the call that don't know what CoreLogic does. I mean, it's like we should, because y'all are a huge, huge company. But what is CoreLogic other than a data platform? I mean, you only focus on residential, right? Mostly, right?
Residential and commercial, yeah.
Oh, you did commercial too. Okay.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. So, I mean, just very simply, we support 1.5 million property professionals, and really what it boils down to is we help everyone like you and I find, buy, and protect our probably our biggest purchase, which is our home. So what does that really mean? We support over a million realtors, real estate agents in the United States. So when you're with a real estate agent, in the background, you're actually working on CoreLogic software and data for the real estate agent to manage that listing, and then for the real estate agent to work with the potential home buyer or seller to manage the transaction. We touch just over 8 out of every 10 loans. So when you're with a major bank or a regional bank, and it's saying, tell me everything about John Rogers, who's a potential home buyer. Tell me his LTL value, his credit score. Tell me, is it John Rogers? Tell me, does he work for CoreLogic? Tell me, tell me everything about the house, its valuations, any risks associated with it, and all the compliances to close that loan. And then we also service all the property tax payments. We're basically like the Stripe of property tax payments. So if you pay your property tax through escrow, which is about 80% of the population, we're in the background in the intersection between 24,000 tax jurisdictions, hundreds of lenders and tens of millions of consumers just paying a property tax each year. And then finally, in the insurance space, again, we touch about 8 out of every 10 home policies in terms of how we underwrite a policy and also drive the claims process. So we service over 400 insurers. And because of all that, we collect over 22,000 data sources. So think of everything from a fax of a fax. So think of you and I when we sign our mortgage transaction. We process the vast majority of all those transactions all the way through to point cloud data, which is satellite, aerial, drone imagery, and structure sensors, and everything in between to get the best view of the property. And I can show you demonstrations as well if there's time. And
for sure. We got an hour, man. We can do whatever we want. It's awesome. It's
no
cool.
problem.
But like, can you fix the title industry, please? Like, I'm just, can you fix that group? I'm just saying. I'm sure there's title people on the call. I love you, but no, like, but that whole process is like insane in the membrane. Like, it's so manual. But okay, I digress. But that's
I think the opportunity for the whole industry is since 2008, since the crash, I think it was roughly about 35 days on average to close a home. I think the unit cost per loan was around about $3,500. If you fast forward now, that's nearing $10,000 unit cost, and it's still about 50 to 55 days to close a loan. That doesn't make sense. And collectively, I think we all need to do a better job lean in and get the homeowner in as fast as possible. So how we mentioned AI a lot, how we can utilize AI across finding a home, buying a home, protecting a home is, I think a lot of us in this call are trying to make it a lot more easier for the home buyer to purchase a new home. So it's a massive opportunity.
Yeah, and you bring up one of my pet peeves, which is everybody, when they report data on how quickly a market is turning, right? Oh, this home sold in 7 days. Well, BS, it did not sell in 7 days. It was listed and then it got an offer accepted in 7 days, right? It did not sell then. You have this whole long process before you actually close on the sucker. That's when it sold. It didn't sell in 7 days. So I don't know why that drives me bananas so much, other than I think it's most misleading. But it's really kind of interesting. So the long piece behind, yep, we got an offer accepted. And you're working in that space to kind of decompress that cycle time, right? Yeah. No, I think it's fabulous.
And I'll just give you a couple of examples. So how to verify the borrower, and how do you know General Motors works for CoreLogic? So that typically historically took about 5 to 6 days, and we're using AI under the hood on all of the data sets that we have, and we're down to about under a day now for about 90% of all applicants, which is good, right? And then imagine in the appraisal space, the long pole in the tent is actually just scheduling the call. So we're doing a lot about how we get that scheduling time down, and then even aspects, the QC process for an appraiser, looking at all the images. Again, we can use image analytics at scale to help reduce the time and get the homeowner in as fast as possible. So, AI is an incredible capability, and if you're working on the truth data set on all things property, then you can leverage that to a great to all the personas that drive that process. So exciting times.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm so jealous of all your data. I'm a little jelly because you have all this data that I would love to like sit there and play with, because I'm a data aggregator too, but it's on the commercial side. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just amazing when you get these large sources of data, and you've got all this stuff, and you kind of you do the validation, the QC of the data, and you make sure that it's all good. But then what you can do with that, like the processes you get, the insights you can get from it, is just amazing. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, you're mapping everything across the U.S. or U.S. only, or you're okay.
We're North America, Australia, New Zealand, and penetrating Western Europe. But to your point about we can do amazing things. So we've now got something called climate risk analytics. Basically allows companies to measure, model, and mitigate the financial risk of climate change to every single property up to the year 2050. So we help regulators shape policy. So example, like the Federal Reserve Board, we assess the top 6 banks in the US, mimicking a hurricane event across the Northeast region of the United States, to understand, likelihood of default, cost of default, internal risk rating, so the credit metrics, and understand their systems and processes. Obviously, working with companies, agencies like FEMA, HUD, CFPB, and so forth, to shape policy, work with the investment community, lenders, to assess risk on their portfolio, whether commercial or residential, and where do you, build new developments across the United States. And then in the insurance space, obviously to set premiums, and just as importantly, to lower the premium. And so like in California, we're rolling out right now an image analytics capability to look at a person's home and identify the 12 prerequisites, like distance to fence. I don't have any flammable material 5 foot away from my property. I don't have any brush underneath my deck. And if you meet these prerequisites, the insurer can actually lower the premium, which is obviously, that's a pretty hot potato subject right now with everyone's insurances escalating. So it's I mean, on that climate risk analytics, it's just to go back a bit, it's the ability to every single property is different. And again, if we have time, I can demo it, but every single property is different. Think about material type, topology of land, first floor height. That has an effect on the risk of that local weather event happening. And we are helping government agencies and state agencies make homes more resilient. So for every $1 that is invested to make a home more resilient, it's about equivalent to $6 if that weather event were to occur. So the business case makes sense. So right now, you might have read it just at the back end of last year, FEMA's pumping in about $3 billion worth of investment across if I try and remember the numbers, it's across 115 communities, about 38 states, to make some homes more resilient. So we're literally lifting houses up in Louisiana to mitigate flood risk, and that's really good. I mean, there's good things happening across the United States, and the Inflation Reduction Act, if you may have heard, that's $1 trillion worth of investment into clean energy. That has generated nearly 250,000 jobs across the United States last year. There is early signs that CO2 is going down just from the country of the USA, which has already been doing a good job since 2005. So we're not out of the water, but there's definitely some green shoots, which is a positive thing. So.
Yeah. All right. Are you going to demo it on that big blue screen back there? And are you going to act like, NCIS LA?
I was going to do, yeah, I was going to just share my screen to Zoom because it might not be as effective just zooming in. And I was just going to say to Amy, I was just going to, obviously, you're more than welcome to come anytime, and to the panelists as well, and to the callers. If it's just to go back to the statement you said, it's a great way to ideate and workshop new ideas. So we bring obviously lots of clients through the center. Obviously your big banks, your federal agencies, your insurers, all the way through to companies like NASA, because NASA provides input into the greenhouse emission models, which we use to create the financial impact to the clients. But would you like me to show you the?
Yes, I want you to show it. Yeah, and then we gotta get.
Yeah, sure. Let me see if
and then we're going to get a bunch of startups over there, and they're going to go geek out on all your stuff. Like, it's going to be awesome.
We work with lots of startups all the time. So can you see my screen? Okay.
Yeah, we can see it. Go for it.
Yeah. So this is climate risk analytics. So just let me just pop off here. Hold on. Give me 2 secs. So what this is a heat map, obviously, of the United States, and there's 4 main ingredients to there's all of our peril models, which have been industrially tested for the last 20 years in the insurance space. When you assess risk to each house, whether it's in single family, commercial, industrial, and so forth, the risk score, and most importantly, the average annual loss. And average annual loss is a financial metric, and it's basically a ratio per $100,000 of reconstruction costs. The key point about that is once you provide a financial measure, what is sometimes maybe an over-politicized subject moves to the side, and it becomes all about the business case, which is fantastic. These are greenhouse emission models from the United Nations. It's called an Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Basically, 2.6, the world gets better. 4.5 is the current trajectory. 8.5 is if the world gets worse. But and I can play this up to 2050, but let me drill in, because not many companies do this. Hold on, let me just go to somewhere in Fort Lauderdale. All
right.
So this is in Fort Lauderdale, and the key point here is obviously green, blue, low risk, orange, red is high risk. This particular house is low risk because it's built in 2017, built to code, outside of flood FEMA zone. However, even when you look at that, if I can just pull down on the screen here a little bit, hold on, let me just come here. You see this area here, this is basically over time, up to 2050. These are the greenhouse emission models over time. And the risk of this house actually doubles to trebles. So we're working a lot, obviously, with federal agencies, state agencies, real estate groups, banks, insurers, to get this information out into the hands of consumers in a digestible format, so that people can make more informed decisions. But that's actually, I'll show you, if I have time to show you one more thing. Actually, let me go back.
Yeah, go for it, dude.
Let me just bear with me. Let's get the Zoom thing out of the way there.
And I'm glad you're not picking on Austin. Thank you. Pick on Fort Lauderdale. We can pick on Florida all the time.
Yeah, let me just let me go to New Orleans, and this is. Again, I show this more just obviously a very high risk area. If I drill in here, just bear with me for a second. let me just drill in. There's one more. This is querying about 26 billion records, so it takes a little bit of time sometimes to. And if I just show you something here, let me just have a look. Is that working? They always say never do live demos, right?
Yeah, you know.
So what this does is, when you look across the United States, unfortunately, there's a clustering effect of low to moderate income across the United States in places of high risk. And so we're working obviously with federal agencies to how do you protect these homes? And more, as importantly, how do you protect the equity in very high risk areas? Now, I guess there's good news and bad news. If you think about the entire asset class of residential homes, it all equates to about $43.5 trillion in terms of valuations. Homes that are in a very high risk area, so 70 and above on a scale of 1 to 100, it's about 10% of the inventory that is in very high risk, which is equivalent, if you're in reconstruction cost, it's about equivalent to about $2.7 trillion. If we carry on the current trajectory, that inventory stock will rise to about 15% with about $4.1 trillion in terms of inventory reconstruction costs. So it's well worth, one, investing in making houses more resilient, because the equivalent is a worse scenario if you think about that $1 to $6 ratio. And secondly, how do we protect the equity of what is probably, you and I's biggest investment? So yeah, obviously, more to come. This is a fairly new market, fairly new insights that we're providing to the market. But yeah, we're seeing some green shoots. And again, just the key point of this is that we provide a financial measure. And again, once you provide a financial measure, you can do something about it.
Yeah, for sure. And the people that are going to force people to do something about it are the ones you're talking to, like the lenders and the insurance companies, right? So it's like, I mean, we can carrot all day long, but sometimes it's really nice to have a big stick, Yep.
And just another pilot that we're running out, because we've got this, amazing truth data set on all things property and location. We've got we're piloting an affordable housing solution right now, where if you imagine in the US, and I might be slightly out of date with figures, but there's about a 4.3 million housing shortage right now in the US, about 1.1, 1.2 in the low to moderate income bracket. And you could argue there's plenty of subsidies. Unfortunately, it can't get through the funnel fast enough. So even the feasibility and planning of development in the US takes double-digit months to 5, 6, 7 years, which, how can we help improve that? So we've got a solution where you can identify land to build a certain type of home for a certain type of median income, and try and solve the conundrum of providing an ROI back to the land and building developer. So we've run some pilots in Memphis, Columbus, Ohio, scheduling one in Philly coming up pretty soon. And it's really working with state and local agencies, city departments, land and building developers, MLSs, lenders, typically a nonprofit, quite often quarterbacks these big initiatives. So we're trying to, we're trying to use this data for good, and really, the long-term goal would be to provide attainable homes for everyone. So yeah,
you go where I'm your cheerleader. Go, John, go. Like, that is awesome sauce. Yes. I mean, we have to solve global problems, and data is one of the ways to help, right? For sure. And
exactly right.
And I was talking with someone today earlier, and they're putting together, and the US Proptech Council is going to help, but they're putting together an initiative around smart cities. And
Mhm.
and partnering with PropTech Asia is one of the folks we're going to partner with, and then he was in South Africa. But looking at how can we bye George, thanks for being on the call, thank you. How can we I mean, there's so many things that PropTech can solve in a smart city kind of environment, like infrastructure, but you can't get there unless you have data. Like you can't get there unless you can understand what every building's doing, where the risks are, where everything kind of lies, what's happening. So have you looked at, are y'all looking at smart city kind of initiatives yet, or working with any municipalities yet?
Yeah, I think the way I think about it, and we're trying to think about how to give every homeowner a home health app, so that obviously with IoT devices, the ability with AI on data sets, if Amy, just say you own a home and I could send you an insight that says, hey Amy, install another smoke alarm. We'll send a signal to your insurer to lower your premium. We'll send a signal, say, to a big retailer, like your Amazons of the world, to go and purchase it. We'll send a signal to a person to install it. That to me is a smart home. And that's and I think you just at the beginning of the conversation, you were talking about Costar's acquisition of Matterport. That's a content play. That's what, and it's interesting, if you've seen Costar's stock, it's over the last day, it's rapidly risen. That's a smart play from Costar.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's totally a content play, and it's totally about and I think there's a lot of room. I mean, real estate's super inefficient. Like, let's be real. Like, the whole process is stuck in, I'd be generous to say it's stuck in the 80s. Like it's just super inefficient. It's been bugging me ever since I got into real estate. But I truly think real estate could not truly evolve until we came to this crisis now, whereas we're in a real estate recession, and they have to innovate. They have to take a look at their operations, and they have to look at the way they're doing things. And, the insurance companies, the premiums now are insane in the membrane. Like there's, and the cost to own a home, the cost of home ownership now is so huge that it's forcing everybody to kind of take a look at this behemoth of an industry that's been acting the same way for the last 100 years. Like, it's crazy town. But I think COVID was obviously a catalyst for it. But honestly, truly, I think it's because of AI and data that we're able to actually do actionable things for it, right? I don't think we had the ability truly to attack this beast if we did not have AI. I think it would have been, it's painful, now, but AI obviously can help.
Yeah. It's an old adage, but AI really brings to life the old adage that data and the ability to make sense of it is the biggest driver of innovation. And that's very true right now in the 21st century. And yes, we have the opportunity to make this a lot better experience. And I know the panel are talking about experience for the potential home buyer or seller to find a home and buy a home and live in their home in a fantastic way. The affordability part, that is a big concern. I think it's about 25% of the stock right now in the United States is owned by investors. That's an interesting data point to look at. Just even take the paradox of Miami-Dade County, right? That's the riskiest county in terms of climate change in the whole United States, and there's about 3,200 counties, and yet it's the hottest market.
I know, because
there's
not a hurricane
it's a
happening.
fantastic place to live. It's a fantastic place to live, but
it's wonderful.
It's driving affordability. Affordability is a massive challenge in the United States. So we're trying to lean in and do our part, but it requires a lot of people. And to be honest, it actually requires a movement in society to really think about how do we want to live in the, you know, in the next 3 to 4 decades, and you know, have much more community-based areas in the United States. So yeah, we're thinking about how to create that movement.
Yeah, so the whole thing around the smart city really relies on infrastructure. There's the infrastructure's crumbling underneath the cities, right? A lot of the subdivisions or how homes were built, or the thought around how a home was built back in the day, is really kind of, yeah, we have the luxury in the United States to be very sprawling, right? We can just go, and we have land kind of everywhere. I would like to take a page out of Singapore, where like they got nothing, and they still got to figure out how to house people, right? And they still got to figure out how to do some of that kind of stuff. And it is definitely kind of an interesting thing. So what are you besides the climate change, and besides all the other other and affordable housing, any other major initiatives that y'all are working on?
Yes, I mean, just if I can just show you a quick demo again, actually, just to give you an idea.
Go for it.
Because
I'm excited.
it actually dovetails what you're talking about. So this, let me just make sure I can get my Zoom thing out of the way. So this is this is a little window into our manufacturing plant of all the data. So imagine, let me see if I can actually, hold on, give me 2 seconds. Let me make that screen a bit bigger for you. Give me 2 seconds there, Amy. That should be better, hopefully.
All right.
You see, yeah, fantastic. So this is, I can query on any single property in the United States and understand that these are all the, if you like, the building blocks of every single house. You know, where is it in the earth? Send me some pictures. How many beds, bath, who owns it, and so forth and so forth. But just to your point, if I look at this particular area, you can start seeing. This is basically identifying regions of highest potential growth in the United States before they start growing. So if I actually zoom out here, we see all the indicators, all the leading indicators and lagging indicators of the life cycle of land, agricultural land, or maybe converted to single family resident, the subdivision going into parcels, the parcels having building permits, and so forth and so forth. And the reason why I show this is you could go back to your smart city comment and thinking about growth. We help city planners, infrastructure companies like energy companies, and also retailers, if you imagine, to see where the best places in the United States, the safest places in the United States, in terms in terms of climate, of where to build across the United States. And so we see, like, you know, everything like this piece of land here. You can see the land use change. It's gone from residential to open space. So I'm just doing a visualization of this.
Yeah.
It's systematically done, but it's just, again, back to your point on the panel. It just helps explain the story, right? About where is the land available? Where is it? What's the topology? What's the risk to climate? What's the growth areas? Who needs to be there? What's the infrastructure in place? And it really allows the city planners, the infrastructure companies, and the retailers to plan accordingly, and, you know, build healthy and livable communities with a high quality of living. So that's literally not many people have seen this, actually. So
That's awesome. Look at us.
That's what we're working on, and obviously piloting with a few clients as we speak.
That's awesome. So back when I was a developer, there was, for me, I was trying to be very, very conscious. So we're talking about where you're going to develop. Are you also looking at not, you know, there's sometimes there's a little lack of forethought when there's development stuff like that. We need to slap up houses. We just need to get up houses. We need to get a happen. But what happens is that then they become these like food deserts and medical deserts. And where they're so far out, they don't have access to the services that they're going to need. So if you're going to go put out 4,000 homes and there's no doctor close by, like you know what I'm saying? So is there more thought around that? Are y'all able to help with that too?
Yeah. So we have research tools which obviously factor in things like amenities, infrastructure, roads, traffic volumes, demographics, so that we can help research how do you want to build cities. And I always think the gentleman who looks after Rocket, Gilbert, he does an amazing job. He just rejuvenates the whole of Detroit, the whole of Cleveland. And if you see any pieces on it, it's just amazing because he just, I mean, obviously he's really an amazing gentleman, but he just literally invests in infrastructure, amenities, jobs, and just rebuilds cities. And he's just very, very focused on quality of life. And that really helps. And he also has a mixed set of demographics of every median income, which is just amazing, absolutely amazing.
What's the name? What's the name of the person?
Gilbert is his surname. So he runs Rocket Mortgage, owns some of the basketball teams and so forth. But just he's rejuvenating Detroit and Cleveland. And if you ever read some of the articles on him and sort of the history of it, it's
definitely
just very impressive.
I would like, no, that would be fabulous because I think it is, you know, if you're talking about smart cities or getting there, I mean, everything that everybody's doing here is contributing to that, right? I mean, it's like over time we're going to be able to have better educated home buyers, and that better educated home buyer renovator going to do? They're going to demand certain things that happen before I buy a house, right? They're going to demand that. And, you know, I've already looked. I know where the closest grocery store is. I know where the closest library is. I know where the closest this, that, and the other is. And you're building a house way out in the boonies. And why the hell am I going to buy that? Right. And so, then, you know,
just to that point, and I know on the panel they were talking a lot about the actual customer journey and the customer experience. So in our real estate platforms, we rolled this out probably about 12 to 18 months ago, but basically from a home buyer's perspective, working with your real estate agent, you can obviously find your perfect home, but then you can actually purchase a loan, and then you can also purchase insurance, and then you can also remodel your home in one journey. And that, although on the face of it, that, you know, you think that's kind of obvious, it's actually really tough to do because you're traversing so many different industries and so many different personas and so many different constituents. So, but that's back to that journey for the buyer to take out friction, that you're just working in one area where you can get all the insights to your property, work with a real estate agent, work with a loan officer, work with an insurance agent, work with a remodeler in one portal. That's what we rolled out. So
well, that's super powerful because that process has been broken forever. And you know, it's been quite interesting, an interesting kind of process for sure.
We're trying to improve it. Definitely trying to improve it.
Thank you. That's so cool. That is so cool. So the other thing that you can, so the back part of it, let's talk about the whole lender piece and going back to the lenders because you work with them a whole lot. And that drives a lot, and they're dependent upon what obviously Jerome Powell does. But are you seeing any of the lenders, back to the affordability piece? There's got to be some sort of solution there, right? And I think sometimes the solution can be maybe even on the down payment side, right? Like it could be like, you know, maybe I can afford the down payment, you know, because I got a job or whatever. But I can't afford the down payment because, you know, we just came out of COVID and I, you know, spent a lot of money, you know, by the way, it's inflation. And have you ever seen what it costs for soccer shoes these days? I'm a soccer mom, like holy buckets and a thing of milk, right? So they don't have the reserve amount. So are you seeing anything in there, or lenders embracing some of that stuff?
And I forget the acronym. I think it's a CRA with the Community Reinvestment Act, which is a regulation which basically provides a benchmark for all lenders to provide low to moderate income loans. So that's good because that's provided stimulus.
Right.
Lenders are definitely being more creative in the types of loans they're providing. Fannie and Freddie are leading in from FHFA. Are we getting that far? Are we getting there fast enough? we're always
No.
not getting there fast enough, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Lenders are now, there's a catalyst for lenders now to really lean in and try and affect this market. I mean, so some of it's to do with inventory stock, obviously, across the United States, because if there's a 4.3 million housing shortage, that in of itself is a challenge. But yeah, no, there's definitely been a difference over the last 18 months. Lenders are leaning in, the GSEs are leaning in. There's more investment coming in. Even if I go back just to the Inflation Reduction Act, that we pumped, well, the government pumped in $200 billion last year into clean energy, primarily new clean energy manufacturing plants. I think it was about 57% of that is in low to moderate incomes areas, which is fantastic. So if you're generating jobs in an area which is
Right.
categorized as LMI, then that's fantastic. That's a really good. That's just really good.
A really good approach to it. Yeah.
There's actually more clean energy jobs in the US than there is oil and gas now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
there are a few good issues.
So are the lenders embracing using technology in a way that will, obviously, okay, so we talk Rocket Mortgage, right? That he was revolutionary because he took a very complex process and made it simple. So, so most of the lender technology now really would be on, so that's customer facing, but let's talk the back end. Like, why is it taking so long to get a mortgage out, underwriting, whatever? Oh, thanks, Jeremy. See you. But are they looking at their processes too? And by the way, if it's an overhead issue, I mean, I can't imagine. I don't know what lenders go through. I never went over to the dark side, but
from a lender's perspective, there's a huge amount of compliance fees.
Yeah.
And rightly so, to for fair lending, that a lot of lenders are definitely leaning in and using AI as an opportunity to really attack that, that average of 55 days to close a loan, and the $10,000 unit cost. So you just mentioned a client there. They are going wall to wall AI to make that process as seamless as possible. So yeah, there's a lot of investment definitely
happening there. Yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting. So Chris is going to have a buddy named, I don't know, Angel, and Chris is gonna find him a house or help with finding a house, and then Angel's gonna get him a loan. And Chris and Angel are gonna date, and then and then we got Jack who's gonna get him an insurance policy. Like, I don't know. I think it's hilarious. Oh, by the way, I know there's going to be like, remember back in the day when like everybody was like domain hunting and you had to like worry about your domain name? No one's still Max. Okay. That's my guy. Max AI is my guy. So no one take it because I claimed it. Don't do it. It's mine. Anyway, I digress. This is pretty funny, but that's awesome. Well, I can't wait to get up to Dallas and where else are your innovation hubs? I'm just curious.
This is the main one.
That's the main one
in Dallas. So it's like a 10-minute cab ride, Uber ride from.
I'm going
from DFW. So everyone in the audience and the panel, you're more than welcome to come because it's a good day. It's like going to Disneyland.
That's awesome. Eugene would totally geek out. I know he would be sitting there having fun. Kate, Missy, and I would be like drinking champagne and having fun too. But Eugene's the tech guy on the call. For sure.
A panel field trip is needed.
Yeah, it is. It is. We need to have a US Proptech Council thing up there, and everybody can come hang out. That's awesome. That's very cool. Yeah. So the other thing I guess would be, what do you see going forward for kind of CoreLogic besides what you're doing now? I mean, is there anything, you did the climate stuff, working on reducing cycle times and all of those great things. Yep. Anything that you can announce? Because, I know you can't announce everything, but anything that you think?
Yeah, no, sure.
Yes.
I mean, a couple of things. So one, obviously, you can imagine we're using Gen AI at scale across,
Mhm.
I'm a real estate agent. I'm going to take a picture, use image analytics, use Gen AI to write the listing, all the way through to I can ask any question of CoreLogic and get the answer. So obviously we're working on right across the board on those types of capabilities, and then we've got if the audience might be familiar with the Bloomberg Terminal, which is an iconic financial marketplace for all financial professionals. We've already launched in beta mode a platform that literally has every insight on every single property, whether you're looking for market intelligence, what's happening with my leads, all the way through to risk mitigation use cases, like the effects of climate risk on my portfolio, the property search to local news and so forth. So that's out there, but we'll be launching that in a much bigger style this summer. So
Very cool.
So we want to service all those 1.5 million property professionals, and there's more to have as well on top of that. So yeah.
Where are your data sources coming? Are they like how you getting your data? I don't think I asked you that yet. Where are you getting your data from?
So obviously we manage 80 to 85% of all the listings in the United States. We work with all 3,200 counties in terms of tax assessors and so forth, all the jurisdictions across the United States, all the spatial information. We have our own geocoder. We obviously work with all the insurance carriers.
And they just give it to you because they like you. Like the hardest part about us is like, it's okay, yeah, we can get the data, but it's like this whole integration piece and
and it's not just data. We do data and software. So imagine in the insurance space, there's two main systems that are used: an underwriting system and a claim system. And we supply both an underwriting system and a claim system. Obviously, the data as well. So we capture all those data sources, and think about property tax payments. So that's again between those 24,000 tax jurisdictions, hundreds of lenders and so forth. So we capture all that information, get the best view of the property. And just to be really clear, obviously there's high governance. So in other words, MLS data, you can't sell MLS data to another company for marketing use cases. That's there's certain restrictions. Obviously, with claims data, that's with the insurer and the person that has been affected. So that's how we.
That's how you do it. So, but are you collecting like all say, I don't know, have you gone, like the public data, like crime reports and the stuff from next door and, all that?
There's literally not yes to all of that list, but we collect over 22,000 data sources. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. So literally everything from neighborhood characteristics to financial information like valuations, reconstruction costs, to size of hail and the angle the hail hits certain type of roof of a certain material, and what's the likely damage.
That's trippy. That's really cool.
It's about 3,700 attributes on average per home we have.
Yeah, you're just making me jealous again. I'm just getting jealous over all of your data, John. I'm just saying. It's awesome.
And again, just be really clear, like we work with obviously all the big banks and big insurers, and we work with hundreds of research prop tech companies.
Yeah. No, it's really great. And that's awesome. Yeah. So how do you work with other prop tech companies? So say, I or somebody in this panel came up there and said, hey, we have this really cool tech and we want to borrow your data. No, I'm just kidding. We want to steal your data.
So a couple things, obviously, we sell lots of products, but you can get access to, for every single property, all the details. So obviously we have a set of API platform that people can tap into. I think that does about 20 billion calls a year. We sell nationwide data assets. Think of all the mortgage transactions. We have a sandbox, a data science sandbox, so your data scientists can come in and get access to everything, play and build new models. If they so choose, they can also collaborate with our data scientists. If that's a benefit to that company, to build new models, and we can automate it for them and push it back out into their tech stack, into their cloud world.
It's awesome.
we're really passionate about taking friction out of the system because we just want to make it easier. And then obviously in the PropTech RegTech, we understand capital is obviously very, very precious. So, you know, we have commercial agreements where it's like, you grow, we grow, to help the startup. So, yeah, I mean, just listening to this panel, I mean, it's just fantastic to hear. I mean,
Yeah, no, this is really, really cool. This is awesome. Well, this has been such a good panel. We have like 8 minutes left, and I was trying to see if there was anybody in the audience that was asking a really groovy question, but towards you, but I didn't see one other than
no problem.
Eugene. You know, there's someone who gets hurt because they think you're going to take their job away, but it's all good. It's all good. It's gonna be good. Yes, there's a new way of everyone says a new way of working, there's a new way of life, there's a new way of real estate coming. And it is what it is, and we all need to hop on the train. I think we need to hop on the train. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, John,
Yeah,
how could they do that?
yeah, I mean, probably the best way is on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I'm fairly active on that, and obviously, you know, CoreLogic.com. If you want to go through that channel as well, that is enough. And if you want to email me, it's jorogers@corelogic.com. So whatever's easiest for the
That's
audience.
awesome. That is so great. Well, thank for everybody for being on this lovely webinar. It's so awesome, and it was so much fun. And y'all didn't get this, but in the back channel, I'm getting all these people texting me, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so good!" And so the feedback has been great that while they were on the call with me. So yes, thank you for making this such a cool day. It's been such a cool day. So thank you, John. Thank you, Jean, Missy, Kate, who's still on the call, and everybody else, Craig, Guillermo, and George. So we're all here because this has just been a cool day. So y'all have a good one. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Amy, for putting
you.
this together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.